Oh, thank God we made it to the end. I mean, hello everyone, and welcome to the tavern. I'm the Dapper Bard, and today we're talking about G-Quuuuuuux, episode 12, the final episode. The episode is entitled That's Why I, ellipses, which is great because you could fill it in with so many different joke titles for this video, like, That's Why I Think This Show is Crap. That's Why I Hate This Show. That's why I will go back and watch classic Gundams because they're better. To make matters worse, this was a longer episode than normal at 30 minutes, which, ugh. And the strange thing is, it doesn't feel like much got accomplished in the course of these 30 minutes. It's really odd how effective they are at wasting time, instead of actually telling a story, exploring characters, expanding the universe of the lore, etc. But that's for the review, obviously. And if you can't tell, I am not in a good mood about this one. Again, like the previous episode, I had to take quite some time to calm down before going and recording. So, let's break down the final episode of G-Quuuuuuux. We have an extra long episode, so probably an extra long synopsis. We begin with Shuji explaining that he will end this world because it is an improper timeline, and he can do so only by destroying Lala. We get some reaction shots from the not base crew as they are surprised at all the craziness that's going on, and this is followed up with Xavier and Chili Bowl still continuing their fight and arguing over, hey, dictatorship is bad. No, without Cassilia there'll be chaos. But Cassilia's a dictator. But chaos. Super interesting. It is revealed that Char designed the super laser to function as a means to create the gateway between worlds so that he can send the Rose of Sharon back from where it came in order to save their world from being destroyed. Then, finally, the people on the not white base recognize that another mobile suit has entered the fray, and Komali says White Devil, which is a nice little reference. This is followed by Machu trying to convince Shuji that killing is wrong. This leads us into a flashback that shows the famed battle where Lala dies, except for in this recounting of it, Lala lives and Char dies. And Lala was so distraught by this that she used her new type powers to open up gateways to other worlds to create a world where Char would live, which eventually, over several different worlds she's created, led to the one we watched in G-Quuuuuuux. As this is being explained, we get encounters playing, which I do appreciate. I made comment about that last episode. Shuji then reveals that he has traveled to these various worlds and shut them down because they're causing greater damage than good. And while I do appreciate that, I would point out he has spent most of the series sitting on top of his Gundam staring at a wall. Either he's this proactive badass, or a stoner who stares at graffiti. I don't think these two characters are the same person. We then cut to Cassilia, who laments the fact that she never had a child, which is very out of character for her, trying to humanize her for some reason right by the end. I don't know why. This is followed by Chili Bowl seeing the RX-78-2 and going, I know that suit. It feels like it killed me once. Which, okay, that's kind of cool, new type intuition. He then decides, I need to kill Cassilia, he attacks, but Char comes in with the steel. Yep, he flies up. Cassilia looks out the viewport of the ship, he does the line, he fires the shot. It's a more or less shot-for-shot remake of the scene we're already familiar with, because member berries. We then have the members of the Not White base react being sad. We then have Machu and Shuji fighting. In that fight, Yan comes back to consciousness, flies in, it's like, hey, don't kill each other, I thought we were friends. Because apparently the person who said I have no friends remembered she had friends. Then, in their whole little pilot argument, Machu is like, we need to stop Shuji, let's team up and go to the beach together. And Yan's like, you remembered our promise! And I am completely baffled at this because Machu never forgot. Yan was the one who kept having a personality roulette wheel spin every single episode. So now I guess her personality is, I don't like killing, and I want my friends back. I feel like I missed 3 or 4 episodes that showed this division between the characters, and yet we never got that. Anyhow, Neon is like, you're right. We should save Lala. I will team up with you to fight Shuji. Then we're back with Xavier and Chalia Bull, and he's like, you killed Lady Cassilia, you jerk. And he's like, I am a jerk. And then he's like, but I don't have time for you. I need to kill Char. And then we cut to the Not White base, like, don't they get it? People die when they're killed. People die when they're killed. I hate this show. Then we just get a huge conflagration of lasers and explosions as everybody fights. Then at one point or another, the Gundam just decides to grow into a giant Gundam, where it ends up almost killing Yan, which is pretty nice. And then the fight just keeps dragging, because even though we have 30 minutes, why not make 10 minutes of it just pure fighting that you can't follow, because it's just screen fluff, lasers, and explosions. Then Machu gets all psyched up, her hair like glows, and she charges in because she's like, no, my friend, and stuff. Doing some damage, getting a talk with Shuji again. And this time, Shuji is like, you're right, killing is wrong, and I should find another way. Also, Machu, I love you. And then they make out for a bit, which is fine. Great payoff for that romantic subplot. During this whole sequence, of course, we have a slow ballad pop song thing sung in English poorly, and that's nice. Anyhow, this gives Machu that last little boost she needs, and then she decapitates the Gundam, and then Lala wakes up and she's like, thank you, and then she disappears, big flash of lights, and we cut to our epilogue. No, I'm not making that up. Our epilogue begins with Char being like, well, that just happened, bye, and just leaves. And Xavier's like, hey, Charlie Bull. And Charlie Bull's like, I surrender. I'm an assassin. Take me to jail. Put me on trial. It's perfectly fine. And Xavier is all like, no, Zeon needs a leader. And you are that leader. And Charlie Bull's all like, sure. You can totally declare me the leader. That's the power given to a lieutenant or ensign, whatever the hell you are. But sadly, Shuji has gone back to his home world. Darn. Anyhow, after that, they play Plasma because we need to be tortured just a little bit before the story is over. This song really sucks, by the way. It is freaking terrible. It might be one of the worst Gundam themes ever. We get a bunch of cameos. We see that the Junk Guild people are still alive and doing stuff. Machu's mom gets a text saying, hey, I'm alive. Char is just hanging out and runs into this universe's Lala. And then we cut to the beach, where Machu and Yan are just hanging out. And so it's like, so, what next? And Machu's like, we go find Shuji. And then she put on the sunglasses and it went, yeah! Bam, 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 bam. It began so well, and it fell apart horribly. I almost get the feeling that G-Quuuuuuux's beginning was the initial plan, and then they were like, what do you mean TV series? And just made it up as they were going along. This really feels like every episode is written after the previous episode. There wasn't a plan. If you try to define the plot of this series, what are you going to say? Random girl decides to join robot sport, then finds out about parallel dimensions, so she tries to rescue a lady she doesn't know, and then her friend blows up a bunch of people, and what is it? What is the plot of this? Is it we must save Lala, we must kill Lala? Because that stuff doesn't happen until like episode 9 or 10. Is it Gundam battles? Because that stuff ends after episode 5 or 6. There really isn't much here. There's no story. It's just stuff that happens. And it is terrible. A 30-minute long episode and barely anything occurs. It's a lot of fighting, a lot of empty words, and it's just pathetic. If anyone could actually say this is a good ending, they probably shouldn't be allowed to review anime or even watch it. This show is trash, and so are the characters. This should be fast. Machu has no character arc. She has occasional heroic moments, which are nice, and she goes to the beach. Oh, also, killing is bad and you shouldn't do it. And that's Machu. Then we have Neon. This week her personality is remorseful. Oh, wow, that's a new one. Yeah, this character's personality should have been a table in a TTRPG. Just roll your d6 and see what her personality is. Is she a psychopath? Is she emo? Is she happy? Is she sad? Who knows? Roll the die and find out. This makes her a horribly inconsistent character and someone you can't relate to, let alone like. And the thing is this. They're trying to set up this episode as some sort of redemption arc for her. I want to point out, she murdered thousands of people. Her body count is extremely high. They're just playing it off like, yeah, you know, that happened. That was crazy, right? This is the second ending of a Gundam series in a row that features a woman who did mass murder with zero consequence. What? How is that even possible? So any attempt at trying to redeem the character, or whatever the hope was for this episode, comes off hollow and insulting. And because her personality keeps shifting, we have no idea which Neon is getting redeemed here. They just swapped her personality from whatever the episode needed it to be. And it makes her a horrible character, which is unfortunate because she was one of my favorites early on. Then we have Shuji. He's like, murder, yay! And then he's like, oh wait, murder, no! And then he's like, I must go back to my home planet. Toot, 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 toot. The character that he has been in these last 2 episodes, while I do appreciate the fact that he gets lines of dialogue and actually seems like a character, it is incongruous with his original character and the way he was portrayed. He was originally just like some stoner who stared at a wall and was, I guess, high out of his mind or something, and went along with whatever anyone told him to do. This version we're seeing here at the end is all like, I need to destroy Lala and I need to end this cycle of universes being created and destroyed. And he seems very serious and very focused on his goal. And if he had been that way since the beginning, he could have been a really interesting character. Maybe beginning a little bit aloof, and then over time, Machu starts to find out what his real deal is, and then her attraction to him could conflict with their different moral beliefs. And that could be very interesting. And maybe Shuji would not want to get close to people because he knows that this timeline will be destroyed. And thus, getting close to people and destroying the timeline would hurt him emotionally, and he doesn't want to deal with it. But instead of any of that, he's just like, roses, man. The awakening rose is like the sun and the water on the moon. And you're like, the hell does that mean? And then now he's like, you must understand, Machu. I have a mission I must complete. And I'm like, these are 2 different characters. Again, like Neon, he's just changed for whatever the story needs him to be. And it's horrible because it just comes off really awkward and strange when you're like, this is not the same guy. And yet everyone is acting like it is. It's such terrible writing. Strangely enough, Char is one of the bigger heroes of the story. He wants to save his timeline, and to do so he's going to send Lala back from where she came, and defeat anyone who tries to get in his way otherwise. But yeah, I agree, I would try to save my timeline as well. His ending's kind of lame and cliche, but whatever. I mean, he didn't get character assassinated, he got to reenact a few things, including last shooting. Sure. And frankly, he's one of the better parts of the show, but he doesn't make up for how bad everything else is. Finally, we have Chili Bowl. His motivations are all over the place. First, he's like, death to Cassilia. Then he's like, death to Char. Then he's like, death to me. And then he's like, I guess I'm a leader now. What? Remember when this guy was like an enigmatic commander who seemed to have his own personal agenda, but was also working for Zeon at the same time, and maybe he was going to be a traitor? We had this like interesting kind of mystery built around him and what his true motivations and plans are. And then in this one, it's just scattershot just for the sake of I don't know what. It ruins the character. He was one of my favorites as well, and he just kind of became this weird exposition machine, and now he's just contradiction machine. And either way, he's pretty terrible. I would talk about minor characters, but frankly, there's nothing I could say about them. Because they just react to stuff. They don't actually have any real lines or personality. I don't think I need to defend my feelings about the characters. If you've been watching all 12 of these episodes, you can see my decline from, hey, these characters could be interesting, I want to see more, to, are they ever going to show me more, to, they're not going to show me more, to, this is terrible and anyone who likes these characters should feel ashamed. This has been a bigger arc for me than for any of these characters. And that's sad because I'm the reviewer. I'm not supposed to have an arc. And that's all I gotta say about that. Let's move on to the aesthetics, which are also in decline. The fact that the aesthetics have continuously declined after about the 1/3 point is most certainly a sign there's some problems behind the scenes. Our audio is not great this episode. We have some of the same old music, but it gets so overridden by like explosion sounds and characters yelling that you can't really appreciate any of it. Then the Gundam starts growling, as it does. I mean, yes, we all know Gundam growls, kind of a standard thing in the series. In terms of songs, it's nice to hear a little bit of encounters. At least it fits the sequence they were trying to recreate. Then we get that really terrible English song, which I don't know if that was sung by a Japanese person in English or an American person who can't sing. But either way, it was pretty bad. And then we have Plasma, which is just ear cancer. So, yeah, not the best listening experience this time around. On the visual side, we have, well, lots of laser disco and screen fluff. If you like that, you're going to love the fights. There's a few moments where the characters are a little more melee of each other, a little more visceral. I do appreciate those, but those come few and far between and don't last nearly long enough while they go through and just have laser disco, explosions, and yelling. It's pretty garbage tier. We then have the facsimile of metaphor, because yes, we get a little extra water stuff going on in this episode, and they do finally go to the beach, which has the payoff of sitting on the beach. The water metaphor meant nothing in this series. It was just there because she likes the beach. Let's throw water in here. Normally, when you put a motif into something, it has a purpose, it has a meaning, it has a metaphor that works with the character. Initially, we were working on the idea that perhaps it meant change, but there's none. So I don't know why. What? The one thing they did keep bringing up in the last few episodes is freedom, freedom, freedom. Except for freedom isn't usually represented by water. You could say the open ocean counts as freedom, but that's a major stretch. And that's the viewer doing work that the writer and artist should have done. And if I have to go try to make a long stretch connection between the metaphor and what's on screen, the metaphor's done bad. It shouldn't be obvious, but it should be fairly easily recognizable. And all we have here is the facsimile of metaphor, something that exists solely so dumb people can go and say, oh my goodness, there was deep metaphors in this show, it's just like Evangelion, which also lacks deep metaphor. And before you say anything in the comments, I rewatched it recently. It's way more shallow than you remember. Beyond that, there really isn't much to say. There's slightly different colored sparkles when different people are talking in the Kira Kira, but that's kind of happened in previous episodes, and sometimes it doesn't happen, so it's kind of a inconsistency that I don't think was metaphorical or anything like that. I think it was just an accident by the visual staff. If they were trying to do metaphor with it or try to have it represent a character, I guess it works in a very superficial level. So, that. The aesthetics have gone downhill majorly. There's a lot of sloppy work in these last few episodes. The battles aren't nearly as good as they used to be. The metaphor stuff was great until they didn't know what to do with it or what any of it meant. And the production staff was just like, hey, it'll trick people into thinking this show is deep. It's just a bunch of visual garbage to try to make you think this show is deeper and better than it is. And while I don't take back any of my scores that gave bonuses to the aesthetics, I will point out that overall, they hurt the show. Because if you look at this from a grand total perspective, what you have here is some shallow stuff that seemed like it was going somewhere in the beginning, but had no payoff. Because we have a production staff that doesn't know how to pay things off. It's the same reason we have our weak-ass ending. It's just the same empty-headed production team that just wants to try to get you with style over substance. And unfortunately, when the style declines, you realize just how shallow this show truly is. Alright, it's time for the final verdict, but I think you know what I'm going to say. It is amazing how the mighty have fallen. While I was a little nervous early on, the show seemed to be going somewhere. It seemed to be building something, and I was kind of looking forward to episodes for quite some time. And then that enthusiasm faded. And then it was just dread and annoyance. In fact, there were so many, dumb moments in this episode. I was torn between face palming and eye rolling. Heck, during the I love you moment, my eyes rolled so hard I got a nat 20. This show is terrible. The characters are bad, the story is bad, and I can't imagine anyone really liking the show for anything outside of the mech designs. And that's why my final verdict for episode 12 is 0 out of 5. Congratulations, you're starting to achieve Witch from Mercury levels of scores, but you don't have a season 2. So, the story in this episode was nothing. Just nothing. It's characters with weak motivations fighting each other over whether or not to save this timeline, which seems like that should be something epic, and yet it comes off as just a squabble. Our characters are useless husks of meat that change their personalities based on what the story needs them to do, rather than their personalities driving their motivations and moving the story forward. Audio has 2 terrible songs mixed with a bunch of noise. Our visuals have a bunch of laser disco garbage and try to splash metaphor in your face without actually understanding what water is utilized for in terms of creative storytelling. And of course, the fun factor of this show long since faded. So yeah, I didn't like it. Now, when it comes down to this show, I do rank it above Witch from Mercury. And if you want to know why I hate Witch from Mercury, I literally have hours worth of content based on that. But when it comes to other Gundam series, no, they're all better. As much as I don't like Reconquista, I still might rank it above this. It has a plotline. It's stolen from Star Wars, but it is a plotline nonetheless. It has some character growth, kind of. Not for the main character, but like for his friends. There's at least some unique ideas in the world. But man, this show could have just been a really interesting what-if story, and instead it just completely imploded with way too many ideas, none of which are fully explored, and they just fall apart at the end because the writers had no idea what they were doing. I would have been perfectly happy with a Char got the Gundam storyline, and we just see how the 1-year war would have ended. Probably with like a Char faction versus a Cassilia faction at a Bawaku, and then ending with King Casval. That would be pretty interesting. It would leave me open to wanting to see a second season of what occurred as the Kingdom of Zeon flourished. But instead, they're like, okay, so what if timeline, but then also Lala is magic, but also Gundam fights, but also conspiracy, but also family drama, but also love triangle, but also. All those ideas didn't add up to crap. And I hate the fact that I've reviewed 2 Gundam TV series in a row that are terrible. I run panels about Gundam. I run panels about Gunpla. I've done Gundam history videos, which I kind of need to get back to. The point is, Gundam's a huge franchise for me. I got a ton of Gundam merch, mostly Haros, but a ton of Gundam merch nonetheless. Frankly, when shows like this come out, it hurts. Because what I wanted was a good series. What I wanted was something I could celebrate, something I could cosplay from, something I could be excited about and share with everyone. And instead, here I am, lamenting I ever watched the show. Whether you agree with me or you disagree with me, I'm grateful you were watching. Hopefully, the next anime series I talk about will be a good one. All that being said, I just want to say, have a wonderful summer, go watch some good Gundam, and until next time, I'll see you at the tavern.